The difference between this and this is this. What is this? This is Spinosad. And what is Spinosad? Spinosad is part of a line of biological controls used to control chewing insects utilizing the power of beneficial bacteria. Spinosad was actually discovered in an abandoned rum distillery in the Caribbean in 1982. It sounds like crazy, but that's the truth. It hasn't been discovered anywhere else. And since 1982, Spinosad has actually been utilized in dozens of applications, from orchards with codling moth, we use it on our apple trees, to cabbages and cabbage moths. There are so many different applications for Spinosad, and because it is a beneficial bacteria, it's also approved for organic gardening, which is amazing. The other thing that's great about Spinosad is it's very similar to BT, which is in the same line of biological controls. It's an insecticide using beneficial bacteria. BT is a little bit less potent than Spinosad because Spinosad controls just a few more insects. It's a little more broad spectrum. BT and Spinosad are almost interchangeable, but I've slowly started using Spinosad a little more frequently than BT just because it controls, like I said, a little bit wider of a range of insects. Whether it's, like I said, codling moth, cabbage moth, tomato hornworm, you name it. It controls all of them, which is amazing. It also helps to control even beetles, which is great as well. The final thing that makes Spinosad so phenomenal before we use it on these, because you can tell the difference is pretty stark, pretty big difference, is that the biggest thing, the reason why I love to use it is because it's non-adaptive, right? A lot of times you'll have pests that will adapt and become resistant, or it's sometimes called non-resistance forming. You'll have insects that will essentially become resistant to some of the pesticides you're using on your crops. Over time, one concentration just doesn't work. So you have to increase the concentration and increase the concentration to the point where it no longer kills the pests at all and they just laugh at it. And as an organic gardener, there's already so few options that I like to stick to options that are non-resistance forming or non-adaptive, because it allows me to continually use it year in and year out with very few side effects. So I absolutely love this. It's great. And let's spray these crops down. I'll show you how we do it because I've let this test go on long enough. I didn't spray these cabbage here. There's a lot of other ways as well, which we'll talk about, to protecting your cabbage from cabbage moths and having your cabbage look like Swiss cheese. There's a lot of other methods, but I really wanted just to look at the difference between the two. I wanted to assess the difference between application and no application to really see what the difference is. And honestly, tiny bit of chewing, like definitely a little bit of chewing, compared to a lot of damage, a lot of chewing on these cabbage here. So let's go, let's start spraying. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna shake it up really well. After we shake it up really well, we are going to add it to our water. Now, you wanna add about 2 fluid ounces per gallon for cabbage moths and most other insects. I'm just gonna eyeball 2 fluid ounces here. It's about 4 tablespoons. There we go. About 4 tablespoons is 2 fluid ounces. Then all we're gonna do is we are going to make a mess, obviously. That's part of our motto. Give it a good shake. Go. And then we are simply gonna spray down our crops. Now, the thing with whether it's BT or Spinosad, any beneficial bacteria that's being sprayed, you have to actually have it consumed by the pest. And so we're spraying down our crops with the Spinosad. But you'll notice this cabbage moth here, this cabbage moth caterpillar, is just chilling. It's not affected. I mean, you could bathe in it and it won't do anything. What we have to do is spray the crops down. Because once we spray the crops down, what's going to happen is those cabbage moths are going to feast on the Spinosad. And the Spinosad is going to get inside of their gut and essentially consume them from the inside out. And so you will notice a tad bit of residual damage, and it will not be immediate. It will not be immediate whatsoever. It'll be a day or two, sometimes even 3 days before you start to see effects. You'll start to see cabbage moths reducing in number, and you'll also have to monitor if there's any rain in the forecast. Pretty overcast, pretty cloudy today. It's a great time to apply any type of spray, whether it's organic or inorganic. You should always spray in the early morning or late at night, because that way it does not harm the plants. We're spraying the undersides of the leaves as well, anywhere where those cabbage moths might hide. And then what we're doing is we are going to let it sit on the plant. It's going to sit there. If it rains, we're going to have to reapply. You do not have to add a surfactant to this. You do not have to add a sticking agent. So like some people will use, sometimes they'll use like an insecticidal oil. Sometimes they will use a horticultural grade oil, like neem oil, something like that, to essentially coat the leaves. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter at all. When we coat these leaves to dripping, just like we did over here, they will land, they will hatch, they will consume, and they will die. And that is the biggest difference between, get off there. That's the difference between these and those. Again, there are cabbage moths on here. There's a few cabbage moths on here because I haven't sprayed in a hot second, but you'll notice the damage is significantly less. Now, what if I didn't want to use Spinosad? What if I didn't want to use BT? Well, you could turn to something like, netting. There's a product called Tulle, T-U-L-L-E. Maybe it's Tulle, I don't know. But it's essentially what they make tutus out of. And it's just this very fine mesh that you can either drape over your plants, or you can construct a frame. Just take some little staples, staple it into some little 1x1 posts, make sure it's nice and covered. If you have the tiniest little crack, they'll get in there no problem, and they will feast on your plants. You'll essentially trap them in where their food source is. So make sure this is nice and, nice and enclosed with that Tulle. Tulle is a fine enough material that they won't come in. They won't be able to get in. Any larger than that, like even insect netting, they could still fit through. And so you really want to make sure it's a nice fine netting. Tulle is a great option to use. It just tends to be a little bit more expensive, and this is really inexpensive, really quick to do. And what's awesome is there's no enclosure. I just come through here about once a week, spray my crops down once a week. That's it. BT, Spinosad, you could use either or. They're both very reliable. I just like the Spinosad because, again, it works on just a few more insects. And that is how a beneficial bacteria discovered in an abandoned rum distillery on the Caribbean island in 1982 has helped to keep our garden pest-free, looking great, and organic. All of that. So thank you to the person who discovered that. Thank you to the Spinosad. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting. And thank you for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you want to get your hands on some Spinosad, we will have some available over at MIgardener.com. We buy it in bulk for our garden, but because we have so much of it, I'll throw a limited quantity up over at MIgardener.com so you can help support the show. But if not, if it is sold out or not available when you check, you can get over at Amazon, or most garden centers have it. Our favorite brand is Captain Jack's Dead Bug. That's the kind that we use. It works amazing, and so definitely recommend checking it out. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully y'all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with a friend if you think they would enjoy it as well, because they probably would. So as always, thank you guys so much. Grow bigger. We'll see you later. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye.